I can't, buddy.
14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Welcome everyone who is tuning in or listening to formerly Double O Deep Dive. We've currently rebranded to PCP Deep Dive because we are no longer running through the James Bond legacy. We've done that. Ginny and I did all of that. Ed was there for some of it. But we've decided, we talked about it. It was, we were anticipating doing this for a while, but we've decided to come back and do A Nightmare on Elm Street, which is a franchise that we all have different connections to, and so here we are. My name is Jason, your host as always, and with me, the best damn last girl a guy could ask for as a co-host, Ginny. Ginny, have you been?
I'm good, excited. I'm in Halloween prep mode because summer's dwindling, and now we're ready for Halloween. That's how I feel.
That's right, and that's kind of why we wanted to do this now, because it takes us forever to get through it. So, we'll still be up to 5 when we get to Halloween, but it was a good to start it. But joining us, we have some Dream Warriors joining us for our inaugural show. A friend of the podcast who was the unofficial third host when he could be on Double O Deep Dive, my man in the chair, my Q. I guess he'd be my God, Freddy doesn't have a man in the chair, does he?
No, well, he puts someone
John
in the chair
Saxon.
eventually. Yeah, I mean,
and you're my John Saxon.
I was going to say I don't want to be your Glenn, but
Oh no,
Situation.
Not for the murder. You just don't want to deal with the Johnny Depp shit.
This is true. It's true.
And joining us for the first time, making her Pop Culture Pros debut, is Regina. Regina, how are you tonight?
I'm good. I feel so special getting the last intro. Hi, team.
Woo!
What up?
I think listeners of Grannies would know that I'm always talking about my wife Regina, and I always said it would, we'd never get her on Grannies, and that will never happen. But I pounced on this one. I was like, you know what? I know my wife loves a little Freddy, so I roped her in. But I'm glad. Thank you for joining us. Glad you guys are here. Let's dive right in. Let's start talking about it. So we always like to open up an episode asking this question at the beginning, and that is, what is your connection? What's your history with this franchise? And Ginny, as you are my official co-host, you start us off.
Mine is just that every time I went to a video store, because I was old. We're all old enough to have known a video store in our time. The video boxes are terrifying. So Hellraiser, Freddy Krueger, Jason's fine. Like Children of the Corn, okay. But if I saw a Freddy Krueger or Hellraiser, I was 100% sure they would possess me. And if I looked at the back of the cover, that would really traumatize me. And it, probably did. Like you wouldn't look at the back of the cover because you saw a little bit of Freddy. And then a girlfriend of mine, even when I was 11 years old, her family had a bunch of VHSs on their shelves in their apartment. And they were Freddy's. They were all Freddy. And I couldn't look at that. I just couldn't touch it because it was too much. So Jason's fine. Freddy was not cool because he talked and all that nonsense. I don't know. And then Simpsons didn't help. The Simpsons episode was awful. And it was bad. If a Halloween costume suggested in Halloween stores, I couldn't look at those. Jason's fine. not a Freddy. Michael Myers, fine, not a Freddy. And so it took a while. It took like till I had to be prepping for a bat mitzvah party. Me and my sister. It was like after Halloween though. It was on TV, and we caught a little bit. We were like 13 years old, and this is like literally our foray into horror. We watched it, and we're like, "This isn't that bad. It's on TV." It was part 2, and caught a little bit of Freddy, and then we're like, "Well, this is actually kind of fun, and it's turning into night, and we're kind of like getting dolled up." And we like 13 years old, we're like, "Oh, the next one was part 4, 2 to 4." So we didn't like know that context, but we liked it a lot. Like, and it was like, we made a little bit of the ending of part 2. Okay, maybe we can actually handle this a little bit more. And then was a whole thing about renting Chucky's and stuff. But Freddy was haunted me for years, so not good.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Thank you, Ginny. Ed, what about you? What is your history? I know you've got a history with this franchise.
Yeah, this is definitely my favorite horror franchise. Like, I would say Halloween is probably number 2, but Freddy is different. Pretty sure I got into seeing the original when I was honestly probably like 8 or 9 years old, and yeah, definitely shouldn't have been watching that. But there was this like older kid who lived across the street, and he had them on like VHS and stuff like that, and he would give them to me and my friend, and we would just like see the commercials. We would ask him about it, and then he would lend it to us. And then it was like, oh my God, what the hell? And my mother was really into horror movies, and she would watch it with us. And meanwhile, like, she's watching it. I mean, she's on the couch, like covering her face with the pillow, hiding. And I'm like, just staring at this. But anything, not in the first one, right? So anytime there would be like nudity in any of the franchise, cover the eyes. Killing, that's not so bad. It's okay. Glenn just got spit up all over the ceiling, not so bad. But when I first got introduced to it, it was like an adrenaline rush, I think I remember being, and it was frightening, but you would keep going back. And it was just weird. And then I would, discover the second one, and this is what, 1987 or 8 at this time. So they're already all right. So 4 was around that, and my mother took me to see 4 in the theater because I was like so excited, and I stayed and watched it again after the. The guy cleaning the theater just looked at me and just kept it moving, and I was just didn't even say anything. So I was like hooked. I had a Freddy poster on my wall at that point, which. You're having nightmares about it, you're waking up, you're seeing this, like, I'm not going to take it down, I'm just going to keep going. So it was a really weird thing. But no, I've always loved it. And then eventually, like, it's interesting, Ginny, because I was listening to you at that point, and I'm like, you got into it when it was like anti-hero Freddy, kind of. So it was a little bit different. What we're going to talk about tonight is a totally different take on a character. Like, you can see elements of it, but not like full on. And yeah, I don't know. I've always loved it. I dressed up for him as Halloween multiple times. My wife is petrified. She knows the gloves in the house somewhere, and she doesn't really love that, but it's fine. We have a wood stove in the living room, and we first bought that. How badly I didn't want to just throw the glove in there and pretend that exactly. Like, oh my God,
that's horrifying.
Exactly. So. There's a lot. I have a strong connection with her.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Regina, how about you? What's your connection with this? What's your history with this movie?
Sorry for Ed, poor Angela. I'm so sorry to have those real life gloves just in the house.
I even hide this shirt from her. Put it that way.
I get it, Angela.
And I love your mention of dressing up as him. You'd think it's fairly easy. Just get the red and green sweater, right? It's pretty fun, like Waldo, but horror version. But for me, I don't really recall when I first got introduced to Freddy. But like everyone here, I just had a lot of access to media. My family's really into movies growing up, and horror is definitely my favorite genre. That's usually something that if Jason's trying to get me to watch a movie, if it's horror, I will most likely say yes. If it's that. But I love that everyone talks about VHSs. But in the Philippines, I remember I saw this cover a lot in laserdisc format. And I feel like because I'm born in the 80s, a child of the 90s, it's like I always gravitate towards the horror genre, and you would flip through. There's Candyman in there, there's Freddy in there, and all the rando ones, the Mangler that like Dr. Giggles, I would just horror, yeah. And my parents were not very strict in terms of what we watched, so we're like,
Yep.
yeah, this looks good. Murder, sure. Killer, yeah. So I can't really recall when I first got introduced to Freddy, but for me, I always lump him in all the iconic horror characters. Like if you say Freddy, you just know Freddy. It's Freddy Krueger. It's the guy with the hands, the guy with the nightmares.
So do you know if this came to your country like right away? Because I know some things didn't make it there, right? And some things were on a delay. Do you know if the first one made it there, or if it was picked up when it got big?
It probably got picked up when it was big. Don't quote me on that. For me, I just consumed like the horror as it came. And again, I'm from Asia, so when I got older, we are more exposed to different genres of horror. So, and when I remember when I was in college, we got more exposure to the Asian horrors on screen. That probably didn't make it in the big screen here. So and we also have our own brand of Filipino horror movies. So we also have local films that are advertised. So I'm willing to bet it was released. And also sometimes it might not have passed our censor boards if it's too violent. We are a Catholic country. So I would be willing to bet that we didn't get it like same time as with most things in terms of American media to the Philippines.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, I was just curious. All right, so I guess I'll give you my history with this franchise. And yeah, for those watching, my son is sitting here never joined us for the James Bond run, but he's loving the Nightmare on Elm Street.
Most children, it's a very child-oriented series. I thought about that with my children, my girls.
It really is. It's for the kids, right? But so when I was younger, I was terrified of this franchise. I was someone who was not good with horror movies. Like I didn't watch them as a kid. It was too scary. I saw this face and I was like, no. And then I remember being so scared of this. I never even saw the Freddy show when it was on because I was too scared of Freddy. Because it's the burned face, and
he talks.
Yeah, and that's the thing, he talks like, and don't get me wrong, I wasn't watching Jason or Halloween either. I was a real wuss when it came to horror movies, but this one in particular, and I'll never forget, like the one I saw for the first time, right? When I finally conquered my fear in like, I don't know, junior high school, was Freddy's Dead. And we'll get to it when we cover it, but Freddy's Dead is a cartoon. It is not a movie. And so like I watched that and went, oh, this isn't so bad. This is kind of a comedy. What was I so afraid of? And then I went back to this and I was like, all right. I got some watching to do.
So this is the boogeyman for real now.
Yeah, this is the boogeyman. This guy scared the hell out of me. But and it's again, I think it's as Ginny said, he talks and he has this, he can do whatever he wants. He's a dream master, right? And we don't know where he comes from, especially in this one. We don't even know we just know that he's a guy who was killed and somehow came, like Emperor Palpatine, he somehow returned.
And wow, you found the way to work it in now too. Freddy returns.
I love that.
That's insane though, saying that. We don't know how that happened or like, in hindsight, it's just like, yeah, he's there.
Yeah, because in this one, they don't really go. They like the mother gives the brief explanation, but like the lore doesn't really start getting built until like the third one.
Right. And you know what? That's a good segue because we do have some points that we want to talk about. And I don't think we have to go through.
Hi, Mommy.
I don't think we have to go through beat by beat every moment of this movie. This movie has been, it's like a 20, 30-year-old movie. This movie is really old, right? Freddy is a murderer, and he comes to your dreams, and he kills kids. That's it. That's what you need to know. But we got some points that I did want to hit. And so, Ed, you brought up the lore. And what do you think, like, this movie, right, even though it establishes very little lore, this movie really sets up a whole universe, right? This is one of the biggest franchises. So lore-wise, what do you think, like, was resonant here? What do you think people were reacting to and really into? And Ed, I'm going to start with you because I'm just kind of rotating, and then Reg will be next, and then me, and then we'll end with Ginny. Go ahead.
I do think it is some of the stuff you guys were talking about, because I was kind of thinking back and listening to, like, what strikes the fear out of with Freddy, right, specifically, and it's what you said, is that he can enter your dreams, and when you're at your most vulnerable, right, like you're sleeping, what are you going to do about it? Like, you can't stop him, and then, as we learn in this film, you can bring him into reality from, out of your dream, and whatever happens in your dream happens for real. Even though we'll get into some more details in some of these kills, because I would like to know what the hell was going on in the dream side of it that we don't really see. But that's kind of, you get what you need, like, to set up the lore, but then, it goes further and further and further. But I think that's what it is. And I also find it interesting that you guys mentioned that he talks. And that was what the fear was. Now, early on, I actually found Michael Myers more scary because he didn't talk. And he wasn't magical, and it was just a crazy dude in a mask, and I was like, oh shit, well, he can just show up right now. With Freddy, it was more like, oh, well, I can just not believe in him, and he disappears, and that's about it. Not easier said than done, but yeah, I mean, I think that's what it is that you're vulnerable. It's kind of like the shower scene in Psycho, right? Like, you're taking a shower. What are you going to do about it? Nothing. You're just there naked, and you're done. So that's what I think what strikes the fear. And of course, the appearance. Like, I'm looking at the Reg's background right now, and you got those eyes piercing at you, and just like, oh, Robert Englund is just phenomenal. He just sells the shit out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know what, Robert Englund has everything to do with how Freddy takes off, how the franchise goes. Like, I think, like, they say that New Line Cinema is the house that Freddy built. I think it's the house that Robert Englund built. But anyway, Regina, what are your thoughts on, like, the lore that this establishes, or what do you think resonated, or even what resonated with you personally?
What definitely resonated with me is, like, the introduction of the lore, because as Ed said, it's more of a build-up in the next few movies, which is a beautiful, like, formula for Hollywood, right? Like, yay, let's make more money with more movies because the formula works. But I think it's very striking because it targeted high school kids, wherein everyone's number one priority, I think, even generational, is we have to be cool. I'm just here about sex and, like, partying, and, like, with that whole scene with the radio, right? Let me play things in the background so that it's a believable ruse. But those are supposed to be the things that you're worried about as a high school kid. So when they first initially start talking about, oh, I had this nightmare, but it was so casually done. Like, yeah, it was so freaky. And then, yeah, I kind of had it. I kind of had a similar dream. And when you think about it, but I'm a geriatric millennial who overthinks things. And I'm like, you woke up with slashes on your nightgown. How could you think, yeah, I just had a nightmare? And then the mom responds with, you should really cut your nails. Get the fuck out of here.
Gaslighting. The gaslighting.
I wrote that down. She has one of the most the parents in this movie are completely absurd, but she has the most ridiculous line in the whole movie, which is like, you need to stop that kind of dreaming, okay?
Okay, Mom.
I'm sorry. I was dreaming wrong. My bad. Okay.
If I was, as a parent, if I was frustrated, I'd be like, you gotta stop that dreaming, girl.
What is that?
Fix that. But I think that's the thing that strikes me the most. They're all trying to be nonchalant about it, and even this dude, running from the police. It's like something else did that. I'm like, you saw the person you just had sex with flying and like
Yeah,
bleeding,
right.
and you're like, someone else did it. I think it's the fact that you have to downplay it because that's the freaky part because you can't fully it's so funny too the more I thought about it, like it's such a it's such a it's such a big thing for what's happening to you. You see people die in their dreams, and then you're seeing things in real life, and you still have to go to school and you can have nightmares. Like it's
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. You have to downplay it, but then this is happening in your dreams, whether you're in your bedroom or in a prison cell. It's like there's no escape because there's no escaping the sleep that will eventually come.
Yeah, and I honestly think for me that's what makes it so terrifying too. Is like you can outrun Jason eventually, right? You can outrun Michael, right? You just got to run to the end of the movie. Just keep running to the end of it's like a bear. You don't have to be faster than them. You just got to be faster than the guy next to you, But Freddy's coming for you. Like you have to sleep. There's no way around it. And so for me, like the lore, so the lore is actually what made me want to get into these movies and get over my fear, because I like all of the things I heard, all the crazy stuff about Freddy. I wanted to experience. I wanted to see what it was all about. And so watching this one when I did for the first time, and then I rewatched it the other day with Regina. I'm struck by like this is a movie that it doesn't set up much, except this is what it sets up, right? Freddy's a murderer, and they do. I watched a couple of like bonus featurettes and stuff. The only reason he wasn't explicitly a child molester was because this was released around the time when there was this daycare that was being a lot of kids in Middle America were saying they were being molested, and they thought it would be tone deaf to put out a movie with a child molester. But he was initially, he's coded as a molester. He's supposed to be one. So it sets that up, and it sets up the murder. But that's really all it sets up. I mean, I don't even think we know he's worked in a boiler room yet, right? Like
the mother mentions that he took the children to his boiler room. Yeah, and that's basically it. This movie was supposed to be a one-off. There was never supposed to be a franchise.
Yeah, right.
And which is, we'll get into more next time of what happened with that. But yeah, Wes Craven intended this to be a one and done thing. And that's why I think we don't get like a lot of lore, because you just didn't really also have the time to set that up.
And that's they weren't trying to lore build. I think what's so scary about this first one is you don't know where this guy came from. He's just there, and you're just having dreams, and he's there, and then you find out that, oh shit, I'm being punished for my parents' sins. And Ginny, I think you're on mute. And
no, I agree. I was like, it's subconscious. It's all subconscious. And it's like, why are you, or like, have you seen glimpses of like maybe like a Freddy in that way, where it's like I walked past the VHS box and I saw Freddy, and then you haunted me in my dreams. That it's just subconscious, and then and that's even worse because it's like I'm getting glimpses of a hat, a sweater, and like, but the hat is so tilted. I will say I read Robert Englund's autobiography, and Hollywood Monster. It's so good. He's like the most beautiful person, and he talked about how he like genuinely was like treating himself like a cowboy, where he'd like tilt the hat down, and he was like a gunslinger, like the way he like positioned himself, and because to make himself more like, how do you use your like angles? And I love him, so that's my
No, I'm glad you brought that up, because I just saw that when I was watching the other day, because he was like the glove is heavy, and so I like put it on my hip, and I was like, well, like, and then yeah, you're right, it was like a gunslinger.
It's a gun, yeah.
But yeah, no, I think that's awesome, and again, Englund brings so much to this, and they actually did in the featurette I watched. They said that in the second one, they tried not to get him again. They're like, no, we'll just get someone in a latex mask, and it didn't work. And the producers were like, get Englund.
You get yourself a Shakespearean trained actor who has done like All of the acting. Who was in a production of Godspell, Regina, in New York.
That's right.
Played Judas in Godspell. We love him.
I would have loved to have seen that.
I would kill.
All right, so Ginny, you talked about the lore, right? That was okay. So I figured let's move on to what we all want to talk about, which are the kills, right? Not a lot of kills in this one. I think there are 4, right? 3 kids and the mom.
Yeah.
So Reg, which do you think was the best kill? Which was your favorite kill of the movie?
The post-sex one. Because I'm like, it's like, sorry, I'm reminded of a Simpsons quote. I will send you to heaven before I send you to hell. Like, it's like, it's so funny because, you know, I think if this were to be made into like a scary movie parody of it, it would be a scene wherein, oh, there's sex sounds and then there's murder sounds. Oh, they all sound the same. So it wouldn't be the immediate running of what's happening in there. But it's for that was one of my favorite kills because it's so gory and it's so visual. And but for me, it's also quite funny because when you think about it, why are you just standing there and not doing anything? You're watching your flying girlfriend all over the room and not doing anything. And when Stancy, right, the main girl, when she went in the room, and then she saw the horrible bloody murder scene. She looks so calm about it. Like if you were faced with something so horrific, I would have think you would have more of a reaction. It's just like something so big, and then the reaction is, oh, like it was just so casual. But what I liked about the kill was, it's like, is it a ghost? But then she's also sleeping, and then it was so bloody, and I feel like if that happened to me in real life, I wouldn't even know where to begin, what to make of it, because it's like, I don't even know. What are you supposed to do? Like, try to help, but then she's sleeping, but you're screaming, but it's too late now. You're all slashed all over, so there's not much I can do for you. I like that because I watch a lot of violent, gory movies. That was quite graphic, and it was very fulfilling.
Awesome. I'm gonna piggyback off of you, Regina. That is also my favorite kill, and it just struck me what a good scene that is this time around. I went into this time around thinking, oh, of course it's going to be the Johnny Depp kill because it's Johnny Depp and that's such a cool scene. But I actually think this Tina scene is badass, and like I'm watching it going, and Ed, I think you touched on this before. It's like, what the fuck's going on in the dream? Yes. And I love the fact that the first kill, you don't see him do it. You just see her getting cut up. And so the way they did it, of course, and I don't know if you guys know this, but I watched the trailer, the way they got the her to get on the ceiling, they used that rotating room from Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I realized it was from Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo.
I mean, I think I was getting that name drop tonight, but
well, hey, look, this is the 80s. Anything could happen. But I love that. And I loved also the fact that if you're first watching this, Tina's the one you're introduced to. You think you're following her and she's the first to go. And just the brutality of it, and just the dream that she has, like the way you first see Freddy when he's got his arms huge and he's smugly walking, like, I don't know, it's so much worked about that kill and that scene for me. Ginny, what about you?
Oh, I do think I like Glenn's death the best. Because I think I watched I Love the 80s before I saw this movie. Remember that show on VH1?
It was a really cool show.
It was the best, talking head show ever. But they talked, and I was in love with Johnny Depp because Pirates of the Caribbean had come out. And you're like, oh, I didn't know he was like a baby in this movie. And that scene is so scary because there's no way he has that much blood in his body to do that. And then also it's just like, so surreal, most 80s death of anything. And like, that's a lot of blood. Unless you're a woman, but that's a lot of blood in the bed. So it's a lot of blood. And I love it. It's just like, he's so good. He's so with crop top and get pulled in. My God. And then you don't see Freddy. It just pull him in. And we don't know what happened. They're like, the cops are like, man, get here. There's a lot of blood. I'm like, what is it? Like, what's he look like? We don't know.
I'd like to think that he pulled him down to the wood chipper from Fargo. Because I think there's nothing but blood left.
Yeah. He turns into sauce, basically.
Yeah, he does. Ed, how about you? Favorite kill?
Man, this is a tough one because both of the ones you mentioned, I think Rod's is probably the semi-lame one, and that's the one I have the most questions about, though.
Okay.
Rod's death is the one I question the most because he
let's talk about
himself. But what's going on the dream end? He's laying in the prison cell. He's getting the thing wrapped around. We see what's actually happening. But I want to know, in the dream, is he in the prison cell sleeping and getting strangled also? Like, is that it? Is it
like
identical?
a snake Freddy head, like sneaking around.
Is it the one from the third one when we see him with the head and we just don't really see it now? Was that the original version?
Could be.
I don't know. But I think, come on, I got to go with Glenn's death. And it's not because I have this thing against Johnny Depp, because I was telling you I don't.
Now we do.
No, I stand by the fact that this is my favorite Johnny Depp movie. Like, it's no question.
Oh my God, yeah.
Because he goes along with Tim Burton eventually, and he pisses me off.
I know you hate Tim Burton.
It's mainly Tim Burton. It's not really Johnny Depp as much, but I don't know. It's just a crazy thing, and I also want to know what is happening on the dream side. Like, you see Freddy's arms pop up, drags him down, right? Pause, and then the blood just goes and goes and goes, and it's on the ceiling, and it's staying up there, and it's staying up there, and then eventually just gets dropped down.
The ceiling.
Yeah, where the hell is all of this? And boom, it just all drops down, and then there's a lot of stuff after. The coroner we hear was vomiting in buckets that he.
Oh my God,
he showed up.
It's true.
They're making cracks about it with the paramedics about you don't need a stretcher. You need buckets to get him. There is some messed up shit going on with this. And
this just goes to show you that the 80s was really the Wild West, because they were just like, we got this, they're smoking, we got some blood over here.
Get a shot vac.
And then after you see that, right, Nancy is yelling from across the street eventually, for help, and that stupid cop is there, he just saw what he saw upstairs. Oh, don't worry about it. It'll be fine. It's nothing to see here. Are you out of your fucking mind?
Yeah. Well, I love how he has that moment where he's like, oh, maybe I should go get her dad.
You think?
She's 15. She's not even 16. She's a 15-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Don't believe women. In the 80s.
Yeah, you were asked to go notify if anything weird's happening. I think you've seen a lot of weird shit, and we're good.
Before we leave the topic of the kills, I wanted to bring up too, since you, Ed, you mentioned Rod's death, the one that you had a lot of questions with the wrapping around death scene. I would be willing to bet that Final Destination types of death got a lot of inspiration from that, the step by step of showing how it happens, and you're like, this is absurd, but then when you think about it, I guess it can happen. So
he Epsteined himself.
Yeah. I mean, hey, out of those three, that's the most believable one, in real life. The other two, you're kind of like, all right, Tina's getting sliced up, and why is she flying on the ceiling? Who knows? But she's getting sliced up and everything like that. And then Glenn, you're like, all right, whatever. But this one seems the most realistic, but that's the one I have the most questions about.
Yeah. You know why, Tina? She had her fingernails were too long. That's why.
She had to cut those fingernails, honey. Or stop that dreaming.
Yeah, don't dream like that. Cut your fingernails,
Yeah, Mom actually stop dreaming that kind of dreaming.
I have a man next door. You got to stop and knock that off.
Mama's getting some.
So, the two mothers in the movie, man. Holy shit. Oh, especially the other one.
I actually am going to say that I believe this movie is an allegory for terrible parenting in the 80s. Because every parent is terrible, right? If you look at Nancy's mother is hiding bottles of liquor all over the place and shattered from her divorce. John Saxon is clearly has no emotional touch. Okay.
No, John Saxon's covered in work.
Yeah, John Saxon's covered in work. And then you've got the friends Glenn's parents,
Glenn's parents
right?
are
Glenn's parents.
Glenn's parents are very realistic to me because they're like remind me of like not my friends' parents, but like I know parents that are like that, or there's like where I don't know, just like clippy and jerks and just like. No, I'm like, oh, so you don't like us? Okay, well, we won't hang out anymore. And they're like, very like, they're gonna sit in front of the TV. They have their TV shows, like, oh, hi, okay, and just like keep. I hate that. I hate it. Glenn's parents are the worst.
Glenn's father, not causes, but like stops his son from being saved because of his own. He's like, I don't like that girl over there. She's trouble. I'm not gonna. And like they take the thing off the hook, and it's like, I don't know, man. Had you just let her call Glenn, he'd still be alive.
I hate
Glenn also drops the ball on multiple occasions with his constantly falling asleep shit. Like, come on, Glenn. Like, get with the program, man. Like,
I asked you for one thing.
Yeah, and he does it twice.
You shit.
And I also want to know how Glenn fell asleep with the TV on his crotch. Like, I just want to know how that happened.
Dude, like, teenage boy laptop. Picture a laptop now. Picture a game system on.
This was a big back TV, Ginny.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, this was not a laptop. This had some weight to it, man. And I mean, I guess he was really, really tired again. I don't know.
Look, they did say he was watching the nude Miss America.
He did.
So
was that a thing?
Maybe he had
probably
some nocturnal activities that put him in a drowsy state.
Perhaps I can see that then. Okay, fair enough.
But and I guess the last kill, I just want to give quick shout out to her mother, who every time the mother dies and like they just take her into the bed, I always think she's gonna do this. Like I always think she's gonna flip
the skeletal body.
Right? Yeah, because her hand goes up. But like, I don't know why I think that's what she's gonna do. Like,
I just like to discuss the mother for a moment. Played by Ronnie
Academy Award nominated Ronnie Blakely.
By watching this movie, you would not ever imagine that because she gives one of the worst performances I have ever seen in my life, and I saw this, Jason. I was one of the anniversary ones. I don't know, his 30th anniversary or some shit like that. Grogan never saw this movie. Okay,
really?
So yes, it was only showing in Staten Island for some bizarre reason. And me, Grogan, Nikki, and Kelly went all the way to Staten Island, no car, trains, ferry, bus to see this thing in the theater. And I shit you not, the moment the mother shows up, the entire crowd cracks up hilariously. Every scene she comes in, quoting every one of her fucking lines, and it was like The Room almost at that level, like what it was turning into. And Grogan's like, "This is what this movie is. Well, what are we doing?"
I would fall asleep to this movie. Her lines are like which is like, "You were gonna get some sleep if it kills me." Oh my god.
Actually, her last line, or one of her last lines of the movie, is like it sounds like Tommy Wiseau is saying it, because she's like, you know what? I'm going to quit drinking. I just don't feel like it anymore. It's like, that reminded me like, hey, guess what? I have cancer. Let's move on.
Yes. Or
I definitely have breast cancer.
Yeah, that's it.
Maybe you don't think murder is serious.
Yeah.
What do you say? I don't think it's serious.
God, I love this movie. And then when she's wasted and Nancy comes in after seeing the windows locked. I locked them all.
Oh my gosh, that is pretty stereotypical drunk acting. Lock.
Yeah. Ginny, you don't have to worry about Freddy Krueger anymore because mommy killed him.
That does not make me feel better, mother. Also, but then in hindsight, the baby girl Nancy's reactions to her mom were the best, because she's like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, she gets better.
We are Nancy in this movie.
I think so.
Yes.
Oh, and I actually love the fact that, like, she continues not to believe Nancy throughout this whole movie. Even after Nancy gives her Fred Krueger's hat, even after she says, hey, the guy who's showing up in your dreams looks a hell of a lot like, dresses a hell of a lot like, and uses the same weapon as the guy we murdered because he was a child molester. Like, I get it. Like, you killed this guy. But at some point, you have to just go, okay, I'm in a horror movie. I have to adapt.
And why was she keeping his glove in the fucking furnace in the basement?
Like
I don't know.
What is that about?
There's a part of me that... What'd you...
Yeah, good.
No, I said I might have done that just to be like...
Would you as a trophy?
I mean, evidence, probably, right? So you don't want
to cover up the fact that they murdered him.
Yeah, you don't want to bury it.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Oh, but also that is the evidence to show the police, like, this is what he was using. I don't know.
Yeah, they already killed him, though. Like, because the whole thing, they said he was found not guilty because someone didn't sign a search warrant. So even if they were like, see, we have the proof, the courts would have been like, so did we, but the search warrant was wrong. You can't go around murdering people. I think the mother was a serial killer.
There might be more to this.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do I say? I would say the mom. I'd probably keep the glove though, and then be like, and then eventually show my daughters one day and be like, "You're fine." I don't.
Mommy,
but you would have followed the same path as the mother did in this.
Oh, I have a lot of rage though sometimes. So probably. Who threw it though? Who did it? John Saxon didn't do it though. Was he involved?
Oh yeah, Saxon lit the match on that motherfucker.
Did Ronnie Blakely go out there and do it? And then was he like, gosh darn, I have to like cover this up?
I
was
think
he there in the mob?
I think he was there. I think that I don't know the way I figure it is the parents of all of the kids he's targeting were like their parents were involved. They were there. They were in on it.
Yeah,
that's kind of how I always assumed.
Yeah, and I think that was it in the in one of the sequels. I'm pretty sure that they have a scene though where they have like a lot of the parents there, and it was like a gathering thing. Trying to think, was it? It might have been Freddy's Dead or it was Freddy versus Jason. One of the two.
Freddy versus Jason definitely shows you like parents being like, "Hey, there he is."
They're like celebrating, like, "Yay, this is like it was like a fucking picnic outside. Like everyone was just gonna go murder Fred Krueger."
It's like a bonfire for like homecoming
mob party.
I'm either gonna go to a block party or I'm going to the Freddy Krueger murder.
Very American, very American. This is the most American horror series. I feel. Am I wrong?
I could see that. Very patriotic.
Very patriotic.
Yeah.
Red, green, and red.
Very suburban. Very suburban.
Oh yeah, for sure.
No,
I love how suburban it is.
And I think it's definitely a reflection of like the 80s yuppieism, right? And the big boom in suburbia, but also like the fact that, kind of like what David Lynch did a lot of this, right? Where it's like, this is the town. This is your normal town where everyone is just suburban America, but there's a dark underbelly. And then for this, it's like, yeah, the parents murdered someone.
Yes. I'm bragging about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Wes Craven did it first.
Yes, he did. All right, so what about the kids? It's like and I'm going to say Freddy for last. So, like, what do we think? Like, which kids you think worked? Which kids didn't? Not the kills. Kills are different, but like the kids themselves, character-wise. Have I started with everyone? I have. I got to recycle. All right. You know what? I'll start. My favorite was of course going to be Glenn because I think Johnny. I've always been a Johnny Depp fan, and I think Johnny Depp's just a really good actor. I really want to like Nancy in this movie, but she's really the actress. Admittedly, is not good. She self-admittedly she said that I didn't know what I was doing. Rod I thought was fine. He's kind of like your aggressive jock. And Tina, I actually thought was very endearing. I actually could have followed Tina through to the end. So I actually thought the characterization, all four kids, was pretty well done because I didn't hate any of them. And there have been these. We'll talk about it in the future. There are some of these kids in these movies. I'm just watching the clock for them to meet their maker. Anyone else want to jump in, kids?
Yeah, I don't. None of the. Yeah, Tina doesn't bother me. Rod is just the rude, tough guy, and that's fine. And Glenn is. I have a tough time buying Glenn as a jock for sure because I know that gets mentioned. I'm like, yeah, I don't know about that one, but I don't know. Just Johnny.
The
Depp
leather jacket didn't convince you, Ed.
no, it just didn't sell me on it. And I know he has a baseball bat, and I'm like, no, it doesn't really matter. I would put Rod more as the jock maybe, but he was like the neighborhood bad boy. No, none of them are really kind of annoying. I'm not sitting there waiting for Freddy to. My God, you got to kill this kid already because he's annoying the shit out of me. And I kind of feel like that still is the writing in the future ones, right? Where Freddy's the anti-hero and they kind of make the kids annoying and like they give you this little quirk about them he's going to expose, but there's really like none of that in this one though. So I'm still on like basic Freddy is the villain in this movie for now.
You want to know why the kids all turned out well, Ed? Because they were taught by Lin Shaye.
That's right.
She's a good teacher, okay?
She was like, I will own this franchise 5 decades from now.
I will own New Line.
That was wild seeing Lin Shaye in this movie.
Yes.
I love the kids though, because I do think it's like I was like 14 when I watched this, and I was like a good girl. I was such a good like Christian like youth group girl watching these movies, and I did like Friday the 13th is like very sexy, and these are a little sexy, like a little bit of boobs, a little bit of boob, a little side boob, but not anything gratuitous. I used to think it was way more like because he was in undies. I don't think I like that Rod was in undies in that scene. That's that's vulnerable for him to watch his girlfriend get like smushed, and he's in like little whitey tighties, and I was like, oh, I don't.
Yeah,
that's sad for him. But then I like when they're like the girls are together and the one boyfriend's over, maybe to like protect them. It's very like high school, and they're like 15. I was like, I feel like I had those things where they're like, get out of here, like Johnny Depp. Glenn, you can't be here. You got to leave. We're having a sleepover. You're here for a bit. You got to get out of here. It's very wholesome, and like even when Ra like sneaks over and like messes with them, and then Johnny Depp tries to sneak kisses, and she's like, no, we can't do that, and he's like, all right. I was like, it's so cute. It's like so nice and wholesome. I love him.
we're here for Tina.
We're not for ourselves.
I think I like the kids in this movie because it's not like in today's movies that you have to establish as someone already has their full identity. This is the goth girl. This is the nerd. This is the hot bitchy popular one that everyone's happy to get killed first. Like there's a lot. There's like they just seemed like a group of believable kids who were just hanging out and like nothing. I don't know. But one memorable moment for me to showcase the personality of the kids that really it got stuck in my brain for some reason when Tina first got the Freddy nightmare with her fire and in her undies when she woke up and her mom told her to cut her nails because as a Catholic I definitely clocked the crucifix in the back and she literally held it in her and I'm like, do people really do that? Like
I kind of like love that, or just like the
very
also,
memorable, right?
Oh my gosh, it's like nice little like, oh, I'm scared, like I don't comfort.
Yeah, Nancy also holds on to that too when she gets all of it, like constantly.
Yeah. So speaking of Nancy,
though.
Yeah. Speaking of Nancy, she is our final girl. So, Ginny, how do you rate this final girl for this movie, this particular the start of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise?
I do love her. I love that she Home Alones it at the end. I like that she is, but I think that she's so young. They say she's 15. She feels very like I don't know, unpolished and not like a sex pot. And she's I do. She's comforting. There's something about a lot of the Nightmare on Elm Street girls to me are comforting. That I feel safe with them. I feel like I'm hurt if they get hurt. I feel very safe with her. She's like reminds me of a babysitter. I think I feel like she reminds me of like 2 babysitters I had growing up. So I love her in that way. But she's not a great actress. But I like what she tries to do towards the end. She's up there. She's maybe like 2 for me, maybe 3. But I like her.
All right. Regina, you think she's a top tier last girl, or you think there was room for improvement for our girl Nancy?
Mm, I, it was kind of unique for me. Sorry, like watching this film just because we're so used to also iconic last girl survivors, and they have the hero vibe about them, and there's already a badass like differentiator about them that makes you know throughout that this is going to be the survivor throughout the whole movie. What I liked about this is like it's so nondescript, like her her survival. It's not like she fought hard, or it's just a matter of, oh, let me try this. And I kind of like that it was more subtle and not very tropey in terms of, yeah, we're rooting for the girl who saves everyone. It's just that she put two and two together and she figured it out and she tried something. And I also like that she wasn't even sure if it was going like to work until she got overconfident and started saying those cheesy lines of, I will not let you take away, or whatever she said about like, I will not give you power. But yeah, for me, it was the subtlety of it, and it's not in usual order of the first person that you see, that you understand and get to know is the main character of the film. I kind of like that.
Awesome. Ed, any thoughts about the final girl?
Nancy's one of my favorite final girls, honestly, in any of the horror slasher franchise and stuff like that, because of some of the reasons that both of you had mentioned. Like, she's just like learning kind of on the way, and it is kind of like a whole allegory of like facing your fears, right? And then not giving into them, and she turns away, and Glenn gives her that little like diatribe about the stuff that goes on, and how to I forget what kind of dreaming it is. I forgot
lucid dreaming.
Lucid dreaming, right? Like, on how to kind of like control your dreams and stuff. And you're right, she doesn't know if it's going to work, but she goes with it. And there are many people throughout the film who, you get Easter eggs, foreshadowing drop there is like, oh, like, you're going to face your fears and like you're turn away, and face and turn away. You turn away from your fear. I think the mother even says it at another point. So she literally does it at the end of the movie, and it sort of works, because I know we'll talk about the ending, because the ending is kind of open to interpretation.
I really do want to talk about the ending.
Yeah, but in that moment, Freddy disappears, and we get the super dated CGI, if you want to call it, just disappears. No, but like Nancy's awesome though, and she comes back in the next one. I think she's much better in Dream Warriors.
Yeah.
Than in this. Like, I'm sure she did other stuff in between the movies, so she got some more acting experience. But no, Nancy's cool, man.
Yeah.
And yes, by the way,
Ginny, I agree.
Great drop there, because I did want to ask you guys, how would Kevin McAllister face against Freddy Krueger? I kind of think he'd do well.
Now we know.
Yes.
Someone's home alone. Keep the change, you filthy animal.
That's what he would say after like Freddy disappears.
That's right. All right, so I think this is a pretty easy question, because then this will get harder as we go on. But like, scary to comedy ratios, like what do you think the scare to comedy ratio is? I'm gonna say 80-20. There's comedy here, but
I got like 90-10. I think this is too scary to me.
Well, I'll tell you this. I'm giving parts. I think there are parts where Freddy, we'll talk about Freddy next, but when Freddy does things like cuts his fingers off and like cuts his like, I think he's trying to be funny. This is like the genesis of his humor.
Or when he runs after Tina, like that.
Yeah.
Like, he fucks around with them a good amount, at least for this, right? Because it doesn't get super elaborate. Like
the phone tongue gag is goofy.
Yeah. I'm your boyfriend.
It still messed me up a little bit when I was 13. I don't want that.
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
you picked up a phone and someone said that, Ginny, I'm your boyfriend now. And then you'd be like, oh, shit.
I know. But that's the goofiest, I think, right? To me.
The phone and Yeah, like he has that expression in his face. He's like,
Yeah.
and then like cuts his face. Yeah, he has this weird thing, and I really clocked the running this time. Like it's in the same scene when he's doing the thing down the alleyway, but then the way he's bouncing around like that, like la di da da.
And you know he's doing that to mess with him because in that very scene, she turns around and he's just there, which means he could have done that at any point. He just wanted to fuck with her.
Yeah, and there's definitely the origin of him, Freddy, fucking with the kids in this, but just not to the extreme it starts. And everything kind of, I think with a lot of stuff, what people think of Freddy is like in Dream Warriors.
I agree.
And, that's what they agree with him. Like with Star Wars, I feel like when people think of Star Wars, they're really thinking of like Empire Strikes Back, like Yoda and everything like that. So that's the film that like establishes it. But this is way darker than a lot of people. Even like, again, I keep referencing the picture behind Wrench, is that was like a poster that was sold to children. And for the first movie, no, there was none of that. There was no toys, there was no commercials or cereal or all the other crazy shit that went down.
That's right, he had cereal.
Oh, he did have
cereal.
I'll box that cereal right now.
I had it too. Yeah, like I was all about it.
Was it good?
Probably not. I'm just
probably like Frankenberry.
Frankenberry or Pac-Man or Mr. T or G.I. Joe, whatever the fuck cereal that they were selling my ass at then. So.
All right, so mostly we can agree that it's mostly horror, a little bit of comedy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's of course mediocre acting aside, you know. Plot.
Yeah, right.
Even he is not Robert Englund at his best. Yeah.
Well, he's still learning the character. I mean, you know, he looks different. He doesn't get his iconic Freddy look till 3 either.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like 3, when we go through it, 3 is really what like brings it to like a whole nother level. And this is he's kept in the dark a lot, and it's also the budget was considerably lower. And again, this is supposed to be just like a little dark one-off horror movie, and they did what they could. But yeah, it's I don't know. It is. I think it's just the way that he's shot in certain scenes where it's terrifying. You know, just the dark thing, and when he pops up behind like some of in the boiler room, at times you just see the eyes.
Yeah.
That's intimidating. Even in the beginning, when he's like sharpening the knives and stuff like that.
When he's making his murder glove, that's terrifying.
Yeah, it's just mainly in that. It's not really in Robert Englund's like complete performance. He has some scenes, but like he really comes into his own later on.
So since we're talking about Freddy and Robert Englund, like something that Ginny and I did when we were doing the first season with the James Bond movies is we would divorce ourselves from our knowledge of all the other movies and just look at James Bond's characterization in that movie. So I want to kind of do that with Freddy. So like forgetting everything you know about what comes in the future, what are your thoughts on this particular Freddy Krueger? Like, yeah, I'm not going to prod you guys. Any thoughts you guys have? Reg, you want to start us off?
Yes, I think I'm the best person to start with because you said divorce yourself from the future franchises. I don't think I've ever seen any of the follow-up movies.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan. I like original movies, and if I like it, I'm like, you know, unless they leave it as a cliffhanger, it's not really something I'm excited about. But I would say I think Freddy Krueger has everything character-wise that you need to be the guy who invades your nightmares, because he's just from the movie, right? Like he was a child molester. That's scary in real life and in oh my god, what if like thinking about like worst case scenarios. I think it makes sense that he targets kids. That's why he's still after them, the young, good-looking, horny ones in their real life. I think it's also scary because he like the cutting of the fingers, the way his face looks burned, the way he peels off the horrible mask to reveal another horrible mask. It's cheesy.
Yeah.
It's cheesy as it could be, but it's the stuff that nightmares are made of, wherein you don't know what's gonna happen and you can't. It's like when you have a really really bad nightmare and you can't wake yourself up from it, and when you wake up, like you feel your heart trembling. It's like because you're trying to make sense of it, but at the same time, all the horrible things happen to you. I am since you also Jason talked about like horror comedy ratio movies. I am very very anti horror comedy. I really like I really like horror movies that I sit down and I get some freaky sensations, and I do take it sometimes too seriously. And I think that's what makes him so iconic, and he's that the origin story is there, the target demo, sorry, marketing, the target demographic of who he's going after, it makes sense with the way it's presented, and it's just freaky. There's a reason why it's still memorable to me. This movie that I've seen before yesterday when Jason and I watched it, I've seen this movie over 20 plus years ago, but I still remember the scenes that are you just still remember the overall premise, because he's fucking terrifying, and there's a reason why they made follow-up movies, the ones I didn't watch.
Thank you, Regina. Ginny, what about you? What are your takes on this Freddy?
With Freddy, I love him. Again, listening to his reading his autobiography, Robert Englund's autobiography. Also the idea, like besides him, like, oh, I'm in my 30s, I'm trying to be an actor, and I'm doing these dumb gigs, and like I'm kind of a skinny tan blonde guy. I'm not like intimidating, I'm not scary, so how do I make myself scary? And his audition, like slick back hair, cigarette ash under my eyes, going in, try to like be silent and scary, but he is vocal, he's like an actor. And also him being like miserable in the chair every day, putting makeup on, and he's like, Johnny Depp comes in and goes like, "Here's your chapstick, Johnny Depp," and he's like getting like latex put on my face, and he gets like angry. I love him so much. So he's irritating, like, but also just, I don't know. He's not like, his voice. They change his voice in other movies too, where it's like it's manipulated, so it's like a effect. So it's not his. His voice is still Robert Englund's voice. It's a little bit lower, but it's still like, hey, it's a little higher. It's a little scary, more eerie than just like a deep, I'm your boy. Like it's not like the other one's like, welcome to my nightmare. It's not like that yet. It's like, hey, Nancy. It's like, it's higher pitched. It is. Yeah. It is. And like,
You're right.
And, or even like, hey, no running in the halls. A little higher. So it's super, I think to me as a kid, that seems more sincere and scary, and just like, and also he's not in it, but he can possess people, or like, I don't like he's hidden more often and places, and like in the shadows. Or I hate that hall monitor. I do hate that hall monitor, because that's scary, because it's just like your pigtails, and it's like where's your pass? No. And he's like, screw your pass. Well, like, she's so scary. That's scary. And you went to schools. I went to big old schools. We all did like that, like these old halls. And I don't care for that. I think I used to think of schools like that too. If anything had a red door, my high school had a big two red doors. I was like, that's very Nightmare on Elm Street, very 1980s. I don't want to go in like there. Like, pretty sure he's there somewhere. So haunting.
Awesome. Ed?
Yeah, like we had mentioned, like he doesn't get a lot of lines in this. Again, and I'm trying very hard to not to divorce my future knowledge of where the character goes. But I think it's because he doesn't get a lot of lines in this, and because it's just very quick lines. And like Gina had mentioned, like his voice is a lot deeper in this movie, where he is more intimidating in this film for sure. For different reasons. It's because the boogeyman is still kind of being like kept in the shadows in this movie. In future movies, he's terrifying for different reasons. But, in this one, yeah, he's more just strictly about, I'm going, for the most part, besides the little bit of fucking around we mentioned earlier, is he's mainly about, I'm going to murder you. I'm going to murder the children of the people who killed me. And that's basically that. So yeah, this is the most frightening Freddy Krueger that we get out of the entire franchise.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say that too. Freddy doesn't get scarier than this, and it's, you know, and it's for a lot of reasons. You're for watching this movie for the first time, you have no idea what to expect. You've never seen this. He's not quipping. You don't see him a lot. Like, you know, when we get later on in the franchise, he's like Bugs Bunny. He's front and center. It's the first thing you see, the last thing you see, and you know, and that has its appeal, and we'll talk about it, but later. But this one is like, no, this is a serial killer. This is what would happen if a child molesting serial killer got these powers. He would completely use it for veiled reasons of revenge, to you know, kill kids. And there's nothing, you know, the only pleasure he's taking, like in the future, he's you know, making jokes and cracking wise and all this, but he's not really doing that. The pleasure he takes in this is the kill. And even with the ways he's trying to be funny, like that's him being cheeky in his own psychotic way. We're like, isn't it funny that I'm going to kill you? And look, there's nothing you can do about it. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing is, like his approach in this is so different and so bare bones. And I think this is probably my favorite Freddy. You know, I mean, like when it comes to like villain Freddy, because I don't think he remains the villain of this franchise. And I think that's where the franchise starts to go wrong. But right here, right now, grounded, this is a fantastic villain with a fantastic performance. And I absolutely love this Freddy.
He like slices himself on the side and like that green
Oh, I
comes
hate
out.
that. It gets the hair too. He's a little like nipple and hairy chest.
Yeah, and he's just,
and
it almost seems like he's doing these things too, because it almost feels like this is a Freddy. It's like Freddy Krueger Begins. Like you would almost think he just got these powers.
Oh my god,
over
you're right.
Like a couple of weeks earlier.
Right.
And he's like, "Look, I can do this. I can slice off my finger. That's it. And you can't do shit about it.
He's experimenting with himself. He's like, what else can I do?
How long can I push this thing? But then later down the line,
by the fifth one, he's
can make steps mushy.
Steps
mushy.
And later down the line, I'm cocky Freddy. Oh, I know I can do all this shit. I'm just gonna really, really mess with you in more creative ways than you could possibly imagine.
So I'm going to ask you another question before we get to the end. How does this movie change if David Warner was cast as Freddy Krueger? Because he originally was the first choice for Freddy Krueger.
Lovejoy from Titanic.
Is he in Titanic?
Yeah, he's Billy Zane's henchman. So I know he's in horror movies. I only think of him from Lovejoy from Titanic. Remember Regina? Lovejoy, find her. David Warner.
I googled him. I know him from The Omen.
He's The Omen.
Because that's wild. He was originally supposed to play Freddy, and he just couldn't. He had a contractual obligation, but that was their first choice, and then they got Englund.
Because again, Robert Englund was like 35 when he did this, and David Warner's probably like 40, but like an old 46. So he's an older man. It's so weird.
Did they get to him in makeup or?
I don't know.
I don't think so. I think they were in talks, and he was like, I'm interested, but I can't get out of my contract. I think that's as far as it went. But the fact that he was the front runner, I think, is interesting because David Warner's a fantastic actor, and it doesn't. I don't think it would make the movie worse, but it changes the movie drastically.
I think it would change the projection of the entire franchise in a way.
Yes, absolutely.
Like we all mentioned, Robert Englund is Freddy Krueger. Like that's it, and we saw that with the remake that happened, right? Like even though we can, I'm sure we'll discuss that.
We'll get there
way down the line.
Oh
no. Yeah, I've only seen that once. I didn't want it again. But no, he just embodies everything about it. And that's why I think it's because of Robert Englund. Later on, the trajectory of the franchise changes down the line because they decide to lean into more of his personality and everything like that, his charisma, and what he turns it into eventually. But
it's like a one-off then, right? With David Warner, like
I don't think it goes past one.
Is he kept in the shadows though, or is David Warner like proper British actor, like acting? What do you think?
I think he gets kept in the shadows because I think of the budget.
That would
reasons for it, because I think the makeup probably wasn't really quite top tier, and they were just also trying to like keep him away. You know?
Anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe he doesn't have. You don't have to use David Warner that much anyway, because maybe he has like money, like gotta pay him.
True. I think if David Warner helms this first movie, I think we get a sequel, because I do think the setup is interesting enough for people, and people without knowing how good Robert Englund was, I think would be into it. But I think it becomes more like Hellraiser, you know, like proper British actor in makeup.
Word, I see what you mean. Yeah,
yeah,
character British actor too. So like, maybe he does another one.
Yeah.
Maybe it's one of those Hollywood meant to be role switches. It was just meant to be like sorry, I'm just thinking of like how Lisa Kudrow was famously fired from Frasier because she was supposed to be Roz Doyle, but you can't think of her as anything other than Phoebe Buffay, right? But I think another thing, I'm not very familiar with David Warner's career, but in looking at him and looking at his body of work even before this movie, don't you guys find that sometimes it's creepier watching an unknown person in a horror film? Because I find that a lot. That's why I really enjoy Asian horror, because you don't know them and it's just so realistic. It could be like a snippet of someone's real life because it's not like a famous actor portraying this role. I think that's what would have changed. That's what would have changed this. And weird side note, don't you feel like sometimes the lesser known actors that host SNL, they're funnier? I feel like they have to try harder. I feel like it was the same with Robert Englund, because again, I'm not super familiar with his previous life, but if you're saying that his background is in theater, I would imagine not a lot of moviegoers would know him by name. Again, I don't know if that's accurate or not, but I think it just made more sense. Like Ed said, he is Freddy Krueger because he was able to put his full self into it without the baggage of like, oh, people know me from this, or I'm known for this role.
Yeah, because V was after this.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah,
that's the only two things I really know Robert Englund from, to be honest.
Yeah.
Wait, no, I think V might be before this, but he is so different in V.
Yeah, you don't even see him.
Yeah, because I remember when I saw V when I was younger, my one of my parents pointed out to me like, "Oh, that's Freddy Krueger," and I was like, "What? What are you out of your minds?"
He's such a nerdy baby.
Because he's so he's so sweet.
Yeah, it wasn't even like an alien who like didn't even like want to eat the mice or something like that, or like
he was. He's one of the aliens, one of the good ones that like helps the human race.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's him? No way.
I love her. I also think maybe it's good that he's younger. Again, younger than and it helps him because he could do it for like 20 years. Right?
Yeah,
and
which he does.
And now he's still doing like comms and all that. But it's good because he's like a little bit more active, and he was like a physical. I was like, that book. Read his autobiography. It is so like wonderful, and like he's so cool and humble, and I love him so much. I'm in love with Robert Englund. I'm in love with him.
How much of his autobiography does he spend talking about Phantom of the Opera, Ginny?
Pretty good. He talks about Brad Pitt coming to the set of Fanatic Opera because he was dating the lead actress. I could tell you everything. And like, he's so cool. I love him. And I love Phantom of the Opera, the Robert Englund version. Oh my gosh. Regina, did you watch it yet? You're going to love it. You're going to love it.
He was Phantom?
Yes, but it's like...
Yeah, he played Phantom.
Like Freddy Krueger meets the Andrew Lloyd Webber version. That's literally, like, that's what it is.
I could have sworn the poster of that was kind of looked like...
He is.
Like a Freddy Krueger type.
I'm sure they were pandering towards that crowd too.
But he's doing good work.
They at the time, I think they almost got me interested in it. And they're like, "Oh wait, that's not Freddy Krueger."
I have it on Blu-ray. Do you want to watch it, Ed? I'll send it to you.
Go ahead.
It's so good.
I'm in the opera. Everything in the Freddy voice.
How sweet, fresh meat.
That's right. How come we never got in one of the later Freddys him doing a Bugs Bunny conducting thing with his claws, and
gosh
it's like
darn it.
murder. How did we not get that?
If there was a sequel to Freddy's Dead, you would have gotten there because we had, we're
He
so
doesn't he
close.
push the bed when he's like pushing the bed? He's like,
Oh my gosh, the bed of nails.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And he looks at the camera.
Full Bugs Bunny video games. What are you talking about?
All right, so before we close up, let's talk about the end of this movie, because I have some thoughts about the end of this movie, and I'm going to start this one. I actually really dislike the end of this movie, and I watched today. I watched the alternate endings. There were 3 alternate endings, right? There's the one we get. There's the scary ending, which is the same ending we get, except it's not the weird Freddy car. Like, it doesn't have the Freddy colors, but like the woman gets pulled in. There's the happy ending where everything goes as planned, except Freddy never shows up. No one gets killed, but it still kind of ends with the kids singing 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. And then there's the Freddy ending where he's driving the car. I actually think the happy ending was the best ending, but I don't think it's a happy ending. I think it's really foolish to say it's a happy ending, because it's not. It literally, the whole thing looks like a dream. It literally ends with the same nursery rhyme that begins the movie. And actually, I think that's way creepier than watching some doll being dragged through the window. Like, I think that ending, like, honestly, if there's one thing I can ding this movie for, is I think I'm fine with the way she defeats Freddy. Right? I bring you into the real world. Okay, I take your power away. Whatever. It could have been done better. It was fine. But then, like, just going into the morning and everything's fine, and it's like, oh, what a twist. And it's like they were trying too hard and didn't really know what they were. It felt to me it didn't really know what they were doing. It was just like, and I believe it was like the ending Craven wanted was the happy ending, but the studio wanted a sequel setup, right? But I think that happy ending is a sequel setup, guys.
I think they're all kind of sequel setups, to be honest with you, because you just, as long as Freddy is not dead, there's a potential for a sequel. That's it. Like, unless you definitively say he is dead, and then in the next, if you want to do a sequel, then Freddy Krueger returns somehow again, which is what happens. I mean, essentially, eventually. Yeah, I don't love the ending of this, because I think it's like, all right, well, Nancy did that. She doesn't believe in him and she defeats him, but does she really actually do anything? No. She doesn't actually do that. Then he's still alive. He's still going to be there. I mean, whatever happens to Nancy, we don't know, because there's also a movie in between. We catch up with Nancy again. I've never particularly liked the ending of this one at all. And yes, the weird, bad CGI thing of the mother getting pulled through is just goofy. It is. I like the Freddy car and that thing. Yeah, them just kind of like driving away.
Love the Freddy car.
Fine. Yeah, that's fine. So I guess that's probably my favorite ending if I had to pick one. But no, the theatrical cut ending is weird.
Yeah, it's not good.
No, it's not.
What happens with the ending of Freddy driving the car? Like, it's just a shot of him driving the car?
It's just
he's
in there.
It's
no kids.
You see the kids. It's the top, but it's not like the Freddy colored top. But the car starts to do what it does, and sort of windows go up, and Glenn goes, "I'm not doing this." It cuts back to the mother getting pulled in, and then it cuts back to the car, and Freddy's sitting at the driver's seat, and he goes like, "Ha ha ha ha," and drives away.
Also thinking about Freddy driving again now. When you pick him up in the second one,
with the
bus.
He's driving the bus, so it's like, did he drive the car and then switch to the bus? Like, is that kind
Maybe
of
he had multiple roles in the school. Like, he was a janitor.
Just kind of like,
Freddy has his CDL license.
He likes driving. I mean, maybe that was his hobby. I don't know. He's really into cars. He's a mechanic, maybe. I don't know.
Oh. Regina, Ginny, any thoughts about the ending?
I think there's always the main thing for the Freddy Krueger series is that in Freddy's Dead, they have a montage of all these crazy like kill sequences, and I saw it way too young by accident because it was on like TBS and like a Saturday afternoon, like 1 a.m. It was on. I caught it, and I was like, shouldn't have watched it because it's like it's surreal, and I don't like surrealism especially as a child. That's bad. That's just like weird to your head because you're like, I dreamt it. None of that was real. I dreamt it, and I'm just like heightening it. And then no, you were gaslighting yourself. I was like, no, this is real. So like the fact that the mom got pulled into the window, I saw that, and I was like, what context? Or like, I don't know. It's like you're like 7. You're like, what was that? Like, what? Gosh darn it. And then 14, when you're 14, you see that and you're like, all right. A little cheesy, but still pretty freaky to me because she's like a doll. Like, oh man, Dalton is just like echoes and then credits. So I also love how bright. I love how bright and white. I love communion dresses on like wholesome suburbia, and the mom's in white and Nancy looks like Letterman jacket. I love it. I loved it when I was 14. That was like my aesthetic. 80s like Letterman jacket, big Letterman jacket, like big puffy Letterman jacket. So I like how bright it is. And I was like, hey, Nancy, I guess you're right though. What do you think? Like the mom dies in bed and then this is just a nightmare and then Nancy's got to come back, to fight it.
I'm well, I get. Are we just discussing what actually happened? I mean, I think she's dreaming again. I think the entire ending is just another dream. She is not getting any of her friends back. Yeah, that's what it is.
Oh man.
Yeah, because when we pick up with her later, right? She's older.
Oh no, yeah.
Yeah. So I think it was just her dreaming again. So she just realized maybe it was like a future dream. Like, she defeated Freddy temporarily.
Yeah.
But then we catch up in her next dream.
Freddy did get her mom though in bed.
Yes, I think. Yeah,
he did get her in that bed when she sunk into the bed. Okay, so that.
Yes, no, that actually like happened because, again, like I was thinking back like when I was watching it earlier.
The third one, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, because the father knows that the mother's dead and everything like that, and they're kind of estranged at that point. So the mother did die, and that all happened. Just the ending part, just was completely that Nancy dream.
Yeah.
I think I automatically assumed it was a dream because it was so surreal in the brightness and the huge contrast of the whole film being so dark and lots of fire and lots of like basement type places but with this they're out in the sunshine, and I thought it was a everything's all right again, but how can it after we've seen all of these people die? And I actually don't hate the ending because I appreciated that it was simple. It didn't have to over explain it. That's also one of my pet peeves in horror movies, when a rando character just let me explain the whole story of why we're doing this, and it's just
I'm here for exposition.
Exactly.
Her mom is dead. Her dad's
we're gonna try to be clever about it, but we're gonna take a whole 5 minutes. 13 ghosts is the biggest wait, Finn, we're wrapping up, Finny. Hold on. But I personally didn't hate the ending. I thought it wrapped it up, albeit cheesy, because I don't think it was as cheesy as it was all but a dream, but more like it's like the brain's way of coping with all the trauma that this woman just encountered and just trying to make sense of everything that happened from something that you can't even make sense, because the whole story was this guy we killed because he killed the kids, and now he's in your dreams. That's it. That was the whole premise of it, and you accept that it's truth. And I personally didn't hate it, and I feel like it didn't lend itself to overthinking. It wrapped up a lot of the endpoints, and it leaves a little bit to the imagination, not like an IQ test that you have to be like, wait, I have to understand everything that happened. But I feel like, was it a dream? I really automatically assumed it was.
Okay. It wasn't quite a Christopher Nolan ending where it's like, hey, just make it up yourself. You tell me what happened.
Figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. It's whatever you want it to be.
Awesome. All right, so before we wrap up and I ask the final question of the show, And anything else, wild card segment? Anything else you guys want to talk about that didn't fit into what we were discussing?
Oh well, we didn't bring up the Evil Dead Easter egg.
Oh, please.
Nancy's watching Evil Dead at one point.
That's right. That's right. She is.
Which rekindled my anger for the thing we never got on screen after Freddy's. We did not get Freddy versus Jason versus Ash, which is a comic book, by the way. That did happen. They did write it as that, but that was supposed to actually happen, be a thing. But they couldn't get the rights issues nailed down.
Bruce Campbell and Robert Englund would have had like the best time together. They would have been like everyone would have been simpatico and happy and
at the time you could even have like Wes Craven and Sam Raimi co-direct it. Oh my God, this or I don't care any of them could have directed it. Those two quipping with each other and like Jason just there getting aggravated to like.
That would have been awesome. I'd love to just see. Forget about Jason. I'd love to see just Ash versus Freddy.
Agreed.
No, agreed. But that point, it was since they already got these two together, you had to kind of have them there, too. And
no, that would have been awesome. I got one small thing.
So
Roger Rabbit is in this movie. Charles Fleischer is in this movie.
Who's that?
Charles Fleischer's the voice of Roger Rabbit.
I don't know who that is, Jason.
You don't know who Roger Rabbit is?
I don't know who that man is.
He's the guy who's Roger Rabbit.
Well, where was he? Who was he in the movie?
He was one of the doctors.
Oh, okay.
Like I think
the main one in the
mortician.
Does he sound like Roger Rabbit?
Curly hair.
Oh.
No, it's a voice he does.
Fascinating.
I just know his name because I was a big Roger Rabbit fan, and I saw the credits, and I was watching for him.
Okay.
It's hard for us to get excited about the Easter egg actors, Jason, because Lynn Shay is in this movie. We have to give our homage, Lynn Shay.
Oh my gosh. Poor actress and mostly baby girl from Something About Mary.
That's right. I forget she was in that.
She's Magda. Tan with the puppy.
She's one of the funniest moments of that movie. But all right, anything else that you guys want to bring up? Anything we missed?
Are the sequels worth watching?
Yeah.
For someone who would.
Reg, for the fact that you have not seen the sequels, number one, I'm actually pretty shocked by this.
Girl.
And I kind of think that you need to stay on board with this thing because you would be the one who has not seen the sequels.
And that would be awesome.
It is a roller coaster because I would be shocked.
Not horror. None of them are horror comedy, right?
They're complex.
They get comedic after the fourth one.
Yes.
That's when it starts to tip.
Put it this way, Reg, Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, is arguably the best movie in the franchise. It does rival this one. It's just a very different movie. It doesn't get like slapsticky. 5 is basically slapstick.
Like scary movie.
Yeah.
It almost borders on that. And then there's a whole behind the scenes thing where they had no script and they were shooting less than a year after 4 came out. There's a whole fiasco behind that. And it's no
Did they just have unlimited budget or something? Is that what happened?
Well, no, it was like, hey, 4 is making so much money that kid wanted to stay behind and see it again. They were just like hey, money, let's go. And even Robert Englund's like, where's the script? Oh, no, there's no script. Okay, I guess we're just doing this. They got some random schmuck to direct it. And you can just see it's just dumb. It's really, really stupid.
Number 2 is a queer masterpiece for the LGBTQ crowd. And I didn't realize that when I watched it at first. And now it's just like, I watched documentaries. It's an allegory
for...
Oh, you did watch Scream Queen?
I did. I loved it. I love that actor, and and it's fascinating. And
2. There's so much story behind. 2.
I enjoyed 2. I have fun with 2, but 2, it's really interesting. It's just like, be it accidental or like on purpose. There's like a lot of queer allegory going on.
That's the whole debate between the writer and the lead actor over there.
And that's the discussion we're going to have next week. Because next week we are going to be watching Nightmare on Elm Street 2, as well as the documentary. I'm not gonna make anyone else watch the documentary, but Ginny already watched it. Ed already watched it. Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but I'm gonna watch it. But the documentary specifically in the making of Nightmare on Elm Street 2, because it's got a very crazy history. It's coded. It's very queer coded in a very homophobic time in our country, as if it's not a homophobic time now. But very interesting stuff. I want to talk about that more next week.
It's still Wes Craven too?
No Wes Craven in 2. He's
we
a
don't get Wes
consultant on
Craven,
3.
Yeah, we don't get him again directing until A New Nightmare, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it's literally titled like Wes Craven's New Nightmare, which
his movie.
Right. But like, he doesn't come in before that.
No, and he has. I know he consulted on Dream Warriors. And I think he may have produced it.
Yeah, probably maybe produced.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he may have had a producer title on it. He does have something to do with, and you can kind of see that it's there. So, but no, nothing else.
So, Ginny, was this overall, this movie, was it a pleasant dream of an experience, or was it a
pleasant dream? Pleasant dream, always amazing. I watch it every year. I can tell you right now, I'd have to watch it before I watch this. I know it, like I can quote it. My husband will be mad at me. I love it. I love it. To me, I don't watch it on Halloween. I watch it during the springtime because it's a springtime movie to me. But I do watch it every year. So
awesome, Ed.
This is one of my favorite movies of all time. Like literally, if I had to name like a top 5 or 10, this would Nightmare on Elm Street's definitely in there. I have to be a little bit more choosy about when I watch it now because somebody in the house would probably just start crying or cursing in general. I do on the box set though. I was excited to get the Blu-ray box set going again. But yeah, I mean, I've always loved this movie.
Yeah,
definitely a pleasant dream.
Oh, it's definitely a pleasant dream. Again, there's a reason why it's a true classic in my opinion. We've watched it in VHS, we've watched it on Laserdisc in my country, but it holds up. I mean, again, mediocre acting and old school CGI aside, like I had questions during the movie where I'm like, how did they do that? The blood going up.
I know.
Like it's still. I don't know. I like old school stick to the
effects. Yep.
Classic horror movies, and I think this is a big check in my book.
Yeah, same here. This is. I didn't think anyone was going to say this was a nightmare. This is such a good movie. Like it's not a good horror movie. It's a good movie. Like if you notice, a lot of our discussion was on symbolism and like use of lighting. Like we're having real film discussions here because Wes Craven's a filmmaker. This was a film. Like he didn't set out to make a franchise. And yeah, the franchise is fun. I'm not shitting on it. We're going to talk about it. There's a lot of good stuff to come, but this really stands out as just like, I'm going to say that, and I might change my opinion, but anyone who listens to Granny's Peach Tea and who's listened to the first season knows that I like to make bold predictions about my own thoughts in the future. I think by the end of this, I'm going to say that this is the best movie as a movie, but 3 is the best Freddy movie.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah, because I think this is just top to bottom, even with the ending, which I didn't like. The fact that we all had so many takes and so much to talk about doesn't even matter if I liked it. It's not a ding because it opened up so much discussion. It's what art's supposed to do. It's what movies are supposed to do, and it did that. And I think this is such a good movie. Anyone listening to this hasn't seen it, just go watch it now.
Yeah, you would be in for a treat.
All right. So we're back, guys. I'm very happy that we're back with season 2. Ginny, Ed, and I, because Ed, you said you want to try to do this whole run with us, right?
Yes.
I'm going to do my best to be here for all of this. I mean, as much as I love James Bond, this is another level.
It's less commitment.
James no, it isn't. But I mean, it's just I just hold it. No, seriously, like this is my favorite horror franchise. So I definitely want to be on board. I've seen every movie probably easily over 10 times. I mean,
awesome.
Yeah. Well, except for the remake.
No one ever knew. Look, the only reason any of us are going to see it twice is for this show. That's it. It's the only reason anyone should see it twice. Yeah. But and Regina, I'm not going to. I'm not going to put you on the spot here, but you're more than welcome to dip in and out or take the ride with us.
Please
Ginny
do.
and I and Ed.
Watch
will be
part 4
back.
with me at least. Bye.
No, I was just
I
about
think
to
you
say
should-
I can probably, no promises, but if I'm thinking about it, I can commit to watching up to the 3rd if the 4th one veers into.
No, I think you like the 4th one.
I think
Okay.
stay
The
with it
5th
to the
one is
4th.
when shit gets crazy.
Okay.
Stay with to the 4th. Tap out for 5 and 6. Come back for a New Nightmare.
That's the latest one, right?
I think that's what I want. No, a New Nightmare is the one that Wes Craven takes over. You've seen it. We've seen it together. It's not fantastic, but I think it's worth watching. It's not a comedy. It's a horror movie.
Yes.
And then because I love you and you're my wife, you don't actually have to show up for the remake. But Ginny, I do love you, but you're not my wife, so you have to be here for the remake.
Freddy versus Jason also. Come on.
God.
Oh, and Freddy versus Jason. You're right.
No, I love
That's-
Freddy. Oh, no. Give me
I love Freddy versus Jason.
every
also.
year. Every.
Classic. But so we'll be back in 2 weeks. We're going to be doing this hopefully every 2 weeks, every other Sunday. We're going to be back with the Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. We're going to be looking at that documentary. What's that documentary called again? Ginny?
Scream Queen.
Oh, Scream Queen. Okay.
Queen.
Scream Queen. So we're going to be watching the documentary Scream Queen, talking about more Friday the 13th. And Ed, you want to plug some Granny's Peach Tea before we go?
We will be doing our review of The Crow at some point this week. We'll be getting to that. Yeah, we're going to get to it.
Get to it.
Listen, one way or the other, we'll have thoughts on it. Also, talking about the latest episode of Kite Man. And yes, Kite Man, hell yeah. Come on.
That's out?
Kite
Is
Man,
that
hell yeah.
good?
Yeah, we're enjoying it.
Oh,
If
good.
you like Harley
Do you love-
Quinn.
I love Harley
Harley
Quinn.
Quinn?
We watched all of Harley Quinn. Yeah, I
It's-
didn't realize Kite Man was out.
Let me ask you this: are you a big fan of Bane Harley Quinn?
Yes.
Oh, you got to watch
This
Kite
is a
Man.
Bane
Bane's
show.
all over
The
Kite
current-
Man.
It's
Yeah.
the main show.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Thank goodness. Oh my gosh.
So,
Oh, perfect.
And we also got Hit Monkey coming up, right?
yes, we do. We'll discuss more about that when we're going to get done. Someone's schedule's been pretty packed, so I don't know if they've had a
Yeah.
whole season of Hit Monkey watch. I prioritized Nightmare on Elm Street because I knew that the show was tonight. So
I appreciate that. All right, so that is all from us. Pleasant dreams, gentle nightmares, and we'll see you next week or 2 weeks.
Thanks for having me.